Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the show. If you've been following this series, Live Well with Barrie, you know it's about inspirational people who are doing great things in the community and who inspire us to be better people. This week we have none other than acting royalty, Martina Laird. I bow before you. I have been following this lady since Casualty days, and I'm just in awe, as you can see, a little excited. Lovely to see you.
It's really
lovely.
cool to be here. Oh my God, you're such
How are you?
I'm really good. I'm very happy to be here as well because you've arranged something absolutely wonderful, and the sights of London and where we live, it's beautiful. Very
Deserving of, acting royalty. I had to find the perfect venue.
I know, thank you. This is like a little palace.
How has it all started for you, your journey? Because I know you're Trinidadian, and one of the things that I absolutely love is that you've kept the accent.
Yeah.
You haven't even remotely tried to alter it, change it. It is, the minute you open your mouth to Martina, Trini to the bone, as we say.
Well, I have to admit, because I'm an actor, I'm a bit of a parrot. So it kind of also depends on what situation or,
Obviously.
environment that I find myself. And when I'm comfortable, so when I'm amongst my own Trinidadians, or when I'm comfortable, my accent will come out even more. So I guess I'm comfortable.
Good. I like that. When did you come to England?
I came to England in my teens, basically to continue my education.
Right.
Most Trinidadians will, in my generation, most Trinidadians from my school kind of background went to the States or to England for further education. And then, you choose what you do after that. I came to England because my dad is English. My dad was English, and I was at that generation where people were starting to go more now towards the States and towards Canada, so it was kind of unusual that I came to England. Yeah,
because you said, when did you come here? In your teens?
Yeah, in my teens. Are you looking for specific dates? Late 80s.
Right, okay. Yeah, because, as you say, by that stage, I know a lot of my family, because as you know, I'm half Trini, were really propelled towards the US for their further education.
It's interesting because the Caribbean is a location of colonialism of one sort or another.
Always
the Caribbean
has been.
as it exists, put it that way. And Trinidad, like other islands, got independence in the 60s. We were 1962. We got independence from the British Empire. But it's interesting to observe the new forms of infiltration, of occupation, of colonialism that happens. And they're not necessarily all political, though overtly they are. There's also, or covertly they are, but they are cultural and the rest of it. So that setting sights on America and the North American continent became a big thing from my generation onwards.
Right. How was school life in Trinidad?
Oh gosh, school life was great.
Yeah.
I love school. In fact, I remember this teacher saying to me, "You love school, though."
I'm so glad, because there are very few people that I've spoken to that have said that they love school. And to me, I loved school.
I loved school. I went to sort of co-educational primary school, but unfortunately, maybe, or fortunately, I don't know, this is a debate, the secondary schools in Trinidad, because we were still working under the common entrance system.
That's right,
which we inherited, I believe, as England was getting rid of it, because they decided that it was an unfair system. So we inherited it just at that kind of point. So you got allocated schooling according to your common entrance results at 11, the 11.
That's
class.
right, yeah.
I was 10 when I sat mine, but it's
see how bright
class.
she is? 10, when everybody else was doing it at 11.
But so I ended up at Bishop Anstey High School.
Right.
Which was also the alma mater of my sisters before me, my sister-in-law, etc. So there was a nice family history there. And I went through all the stages of teenage years, of rebellion, and then of being taken back under the wing, and then of flourishing. So I ended up doing well, sort of academically, but also being given a space which didn't really exist in Trinidad for my kind of creativity to take place, and given a stage. And whatever kind of form that was, as infant as it might have been, it meant that I continued to kind of express myself, and
it was encouraged.
And it was encouraged.
That's the important thing.
Absolutely. And I had great friends who joined in with me, going, "Oh my God, Martina, you're crazy, but we're going to do it anyway." Yeah.
That's it, because you know, like the certain generation in the Caribbean, you say you want to do creative things, they don't get it.
Yeah.
You know,
but I was lucky.
Yeah.
Also because down the road, so I had all my friends at Bishop's who would participate in my kind of madcap little stage scenarios that I would put together. And then down the road, there was a school called St. Mary's College, or what we call CIC. And a lot of my best friends also went there. And as it goes, they're still here. They're over here in England now, and they're practicing opera stars and things like this.
Really?
But they and I kind of had this. We didn't know that this is what it was then, but it was a kind of a support system. So we would be participating in talent things and in each other's presentations and shows, and cheering. We were each other's cheerleaders throughout our teenage years.
Well, and the thing is, you know, those are your genuine friends because they were there in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, the family.
Yeah, they're beyond friends, actually. They're family. They were there in the beginning. They supported every part of your journey.
And continue to.
Yeah, and continue to.
Yeah.
Where in Trinidad did you grow up?
I grew up in Port of Spain. I grew up all over Port of Spain, but I'm one of those Trinidadians that didn't venture beyond much
city.
beyond. I'm so ashamed. But yeah, my friends, however, because that was the one good thing about the common entrance is that. Okay, maybe it's not such a good thing for people who had to do the traveling, but it meant that people from all over Trinidad, all over the island, came together for education and to grow up alongside each other. And so I had friends that came from all over Trinidad. And that's great, because my upbringing was rather sheltered otherwise.
Really?
Yeah.
And for them to see you, they had to come to you. You weren't going out there.
It was a little bit like that. It was a bit, but you know, as we say, I was old people children.
Yeah, I understand perfectly. Old people children. You see, that's what I like. How real that is. Old people children. You either know or you don't know. That is so funny.
Yeah.
But what was your first job?
My first job. So I always got confused because there's three possibilities. I did a very short stint on EastEnders back in the day when Nick Cotton
I'm talking job before acting. Before acting. What was your first job? Yeah. Can you think that far back?
I was a student, and
Were you working through your studies?
I did all the waitressing, I did the working in retail, I did all those things that you do as a student. I was based in Canterbury when I came over. I went to university first. And
what did you study?
I did French and I did drama. So it meant that I was there for a while. My course ended up being 4 years, and then I went to drama school. Drama school was very busy. In a way, it was much busier than university. But I worked during my university years. Absolutely.
Yeah, because most people just work through their studying to subsidize, you know.
So I was not a very good waitress though, because I'm naturally clumsy. And that doesn't...
Look at this regal position. Can you imagine this being clumsy? Absolutely not.
I continue to be clumsy. I have always been, and I continue to be clumsy. And I remember spilling red wine all over. It was the 80s, and we all wore sort of silk puffer jackets and things that well, the rich people did. And there was someone I was serving, and I spilled red wine all over her silk designer puffer jacket, and I just looked at her and I just started to cry. Which was actually the best form of defense, apparently, because she then sat me down and bought me a glass of wine.
It's all right, John.
But it's just like, so I ended up being comforted.
See, you started acting from then.
Acting is truth.
Oh, really? Do you come from a big family?
I do. I do come from a big family.
Lots of brothers and sisters?
Unfortunately for me, my brothers and sisters are quite a bit older than I, so they had left home by the time I was, kind of developing, and so I essentially grew up an only child, but also had brothers and sisters. So
how many of you are there?
Well, it depends which number you're counting. No. It's the West Indies. So I grew up with an older brother and 2 older sisters.
Right.
And then my nephews came up behind me, and they were nearer to me essentially in age.
In age, because the gap between you and your brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same situation, and I find when people are talking about sibling rivalry, it didn't exist for me.
It didn't exist for me, absolutely.
It was almost as if I had an extra father.
Correct, or uncles and aunts, absolutely. And this is going to sound sad, but my best friend was like my dog.
Me
sad.
too. You're not alone. I love my dog. So you came to England to study, started in Canterbury.
Yes.
Did your drama, French.
Yes.
Where did you move on from that?
Well, from there, because in the West Indies at the time, it was, well, in Trinidad at the time, it was not really possible to just be a professional actor.
Right.
I grew up with the influence of some fantastic actors, Eunice Allen, Wilbert Holder, Brenna Soon, etc. They were like really fabulous actors that were influences on me. Errol Jones, because there's Errol Jones and Errol John. One's a writer and one's an actor. And the thing is that in Trinidad, all these actors have what we call proper jobs. So you never considered going away to become, well, I never considered going away to become an actor.
All right.
And so when I was at university, I turned up and there was, the Drama Society, and they were doing all these exciting plays.
And you're thinking, oh my God, this is Christmas birthdays in one.
I spent all my time involved with that, and I'm lucky that I graduated well.
I was going to say.
I was very lucky. And people around me were going, okay, well, drama school. And I'm like, I want to go to drama school. That's what I want to do. So it was at that point that I found out that's what I want to do, and I had to.
When did it first dawn on you as such that acting is my passion? This is what I really want to do or pursue seriously.
That's when I realized I wanted to pursue it seriously. But I was very lucky as a child in the 70s.
In the 80s.
Like I said to you, I was brought up essentially an only child, so I was a little bit lonely. A bit of no friends, jolly no friends. I did actually.
With the dog dressed?
I do actually have that picture. But also at that time, there were a few people who were coming back to Trinidad who had been training in the States, who had trained with Alvin Ailey, who had been to Juilliard, etc., and been to, or my mentor and drama teacher had been in Canada. And they came back at that point and started to give these lessons to kids about, using all the stuff that they had learned. And so I was really lucky to get in with Tony Hall, who's become a huge figure in Trinidad theatre, and Noble Douglas, who is just a grande dame of Trinidad dance and theatre and children's education. Right. And thanks to them, I had somewhere to put all this inspiration.
Yeah.
And then was able to participate in a couple of TV things because my brother, in Trinidad, because my brother Christopher Laird and my brother-in-law Bruce Paddington ran this company called Gayel. Well, no, it was called Banyan back then. Right. And they did some TV stuff.
Has the name since changed?
No, it's changed into something else. But Banyan, because the aim always was to kind of promote and feed back
into the community.
Into the culture.
Yeah.
And a banyan tree is exactly that. It grows
up
and then it's got roots
down,
that come back down into the earth, and that is that cyclical event.
Very significant name.
Correct.
That's very significant. As you say, it grows, but it gives back.
Into the earth. Yeah.
Now, your first job in TV, because you did blurt it out just now.
My first job in TV, I wouldn't, it's not the one I want to talk about, but I was, there was a thing that Banyan did called Who the Cap Fits.
Right.
I was 10, and you're gonna laugh at this. So that's a Bob Marley tune.
Right.
Right.
Who the cap fits, let them wear it. Correct. Yeah.
And they used that, but it was actually done for family planning. It was a...
Okay, moving right along.
It was, but it was like one of Trinidad's first soap operas, and it was really.
And it was called Who the Cap Fits. Okay, I didn't know that. That must have flown past me.
Okay.
And you were 10.
Okay. Yeah, I was 10. I was in 10. I was in that. I had a scene with my friend Anna Walcott. So we had this scene together. I'm
loving hearing these names.
Yeah,
Walcott, and it just makes you feel like home.
You're there.
Yeah,
exactly.
It does. When you came to London, what was your first encounter with acting on a professional level?
Well, this is what I can't remember, because I had two things.
Right.
One was like a really tiny little something on EastEnders.
Right.
It was Nick Cotton's trial. He was up for something, and I was like the clerk. Everybody stand, everybody sit, that kind of thing. Trying to do my RP accent, so yeah. And I'm confused whether it was that or there was The Bill. I did an episode of The Bill. Ironically, I've recently worked with someone who I did another bill with, Carl Collins.
Right.
And so that's obviously figures somewhere in there, but I don't think that was my first one. I think that might have been another one that I did. But also, more importantly, there was a black theatre company back in the day,
right,
when I graduated, called Double Edge.
Yes, I know that name.
And that was run by Amani Naftali and people like that. And when I came to this country and when I started acting, there were several black theatre companies. And as you know, Barrie, we now have one of those as a surviving black theatre company called Talawa.
Correct.
I mean, there are other things growing now, but of the ones that were
prominence
here,
from there that
Double
lasted
Edge,
the time.
Timber, etc. Talawa is the one that they've all disappeared through funding being pulled, and that's a very serious thing.
Absolutely.
And so it's great that that people are forging back and going, okay, well, trying to reclaim the space, but it's such a different market now. It's like, do we focus on the internet? Do we focus on television, film?
Yes.
Do we focus on theater? So it's much more disparate, whereas the target was clearer.
Yes, it was more precise and direct. It was just this one direction, but now there are possibilities.
Correct.
Which could make it even bigger. It's questionable.
Absolutely, and there's more people and it's a bigger market, and so it should be.
But as you say, a lot of people came through those companies that were there, like Chris Tummings, or who have been guests on this show, and Will
Chris
Johnson,
Tummings.
they've all
Listen, I used to watch Chris Tummings, Judith Jacobs, all those people.
No problem.
No problem. Victor Romero. When I was in Trinidad, when I was a teenager in Trinidad.
It went to Trinidad, did it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it aired in Trinidad. So I tell that to Judith when I see her. I'm like, I still watch you, and she's like, okay, sorry, that was a bit hysterical.
We wouldn't have it any other way.
Years. I went back to teenage years, and that was literally how I spoke to Judith. Yeah.
But all of them came through those companies.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's sad that they've not grown.
Yeah.
They've disappeared, and you've only got one now.
Well, absolutely, but they grew, but they were cut short.
Yeah.
And that's what the sadness is. There is that this country has not yet solved the continuity. It's not yet solved how to let something continue to thrive. It's like there's regrowth and regrowth and regrowth.
It's just for a moment and then it's pulled or taken.
And really the investment needs to continue to be there. Otherwise we don't end up with institutions. You know, that's why we've got the National Theatre, that's why we've got the Royal Shakespeare Company. It's because those things are continually invested in and continually focused on. There was great work happening when I first got here, and it's really sad to see it reduce so much. But I think at the same time that there's a renaissance happening now, that the young people that are coming through are focused on their new kind of forms of media and are learning to control that themselves. So it's hopeful.
Well, we can always hope. Because if you give up hope, then that's it, isn't it? You can't give up hope.
No.
You can't ever give up hope.
There's no giving up hope.
And in the meantime, you know, while you're hoping, you're actually putting the work in to help this happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was very lucky early on to find places where I get to work with young people as they're coming up. And that's all. Last term, I begged to be able to go back and do some teaching. I was like, I miss it so much. And
where were you teaching?
I teach at a place called WAC, Weekend Arts College, Arts and Media, and it's up in North London. And their MO is about providing access to training in arts and media for young people who might not normally access that, or to diversify what the training is in some way.
Because you're a big champion of diversity, aren't you, in the profession?
Well, I come from Trinidad.
Absolutely.
So you know. But also, I mean, diversity is such a kind of vague term, and that, like all kind of all-covering terms, can become not our friend, basically. It's like, what do we mean by that?
But what is diversity exactly?
And I think that, you know, so far there's been a lot of focus, rightly, on diversifying the side of performer in the industry, so the actor that you see on screen or on stage or what have you. There's becoming a bit of a focus on the writers, which is absolutely essential, and on the directors and things like that. But I've just been doing some telly. I finished a couple of days ago, and my heart sang to see a black female director turn up on set. I mean, I knew that she was going to be there, obviously, but when she turned up on set, I literally felt elated. And when you see a crew who look diverse, but also, because I've done a theatre piece this year that was very important to me, and it was about the Windrush generation.
Okay. What was that and where was that?
It was called Shebeen, directed by Matthew Zia, and we started off in Nottingham because it's about the Nottingham riots. Right. So we started at Nottingham Playhouse, and it's about the Nottingham riots that happened in 58. Sorry, Matthew, if I got that wrong, because, you know, it's a long time. But very few people know about these riots, and what was interesting, because it's centered in St. Anne's area in Nottingham, and the audience that came in were diverse. I think for the first time in my life, I actually encountered diversity. So you had the St. Anne's residents who turned up because it was either their story or their mother's story. Or
they were directly
involved, and they were amazed to see themselves, you know, their area reflected on a main stage. And then you had your regular theatre-going audience who also turned up because they wanted to see the story and they wanted to participate in that. And what happened was, members of the audiences of sort of places like Stratford East might be familiar with this, but what happened was that you got your black audience responding as a black audience often does. which is to respond. We talk about the call and response. It's just very much part of our culture.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's in a religious setting, in a cultural setting, in a musical setting, whatever
Absolutely.
it is, right?
We respond to what we're saying,
we respond to what we
physically,
see. You
verbally,
participate.
everything.
Like you and I talking
Yeah.
now, so you're responding and I'm like, whereas often people go, okay, well, you're talking, so I can't talk.
So I'll shut up.
But we
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
together, right? So that's a black audience, is that you'll talk together with what's happening on stage. And then you've got your regular theatre going audience, whether that's white or not or whatever it is, that's for the theatres to determine. I don't know, I'm not an expert. But who then took things very seriously. And what I loved was that there was room for both those responses in the audience, in the auditorium. And each one felt that they owned the story.
Right.
And to my way of thinking, until you diversify your audience, you're not actually talking diversity. Because otherwise, you're presenting the same picture to the same audience, and therefore telling the same story, and all you're doing is colorizing the picture a little bit.
In a different setting, but you know, it might be a different setting, but basically it's the same story to the same people. Right?
Yeah.
And as you said, the diversity thing, you have to be specific. What do you mean by diversity?
Yeah.
It's not just on screen and who you're seeing.
What does that mean?
You want black writers,
absolutely.
you know, directors, producers, right through the board.
So
when
I'm
you
part
go
of Act for Change, and Act for Change has always made it clear, which, as you know, is a sort of pressure group, I guess, around all of this. And it's always made it clear that, you know, when we're talking diversity as Act for Change, because I'm part of other groups, but for Act for Change, what we're talking about is literally representation. And it's not just a race issue, it is class, because that's another big issue that raises its head very much in the entertainment or industry or whatever you want to call it in this country. It's ability or disability, however you want to see that. It's gender, it's you know, it's transgender, it's all the rest of it that does not get represented. So it's, you know, now is a time, and I think it needs to be a wave. I think that you don't want to come through piecemeal, that you know, you come through and then I hope I come through and then I might come through that hole that you made or whatever. And it's like no, because the gatekeepers, which is a very common and popular phrase, go, listen man, I bent over backwards for you for that last thing that you demanded of me. So can you just bring it all together? Just tell me what it is you want. And I think we all need to pass through.
And I love that you've
not
said
when
that.
pass is the wrong way, but we need to move forward together.
And I love that you said that for the simple reason, out there are a lot of positive things happening. A lot of people doing positive things, positive ideas, positive action. But as you say, it's piecemeal. One over there, one over there, two over there, three over there. And none of it is forceful enough or powerful enough to make a difference. And you're trying to constantly say, you know what, you need to come together as one entity, support each other, and move forward.
We can never, I don't know, I agree, but I don't think it's necessarily one entity. But it's to admit that there are so many entities. Because the minute you go one, you go, well, who was included in that one? Were you included in that one? Were you included in that one? I don't know. Do you mean? So it's like, no, we need to know that the space needs to be made for all those who turn up, because this country is part of a global phenomenon. It's part of a global energy or whatever. I'm really choosing my words carefully because this is such a kind of a delicate time.
Subject indeed. Subject in time.
I'm really tripping myself over here. But at the end of the day, we need to recognize that we're global. If we want to be global in our markets and in our culture and in our expression, we also need to be global in the people who live around us. Okay? And once we acknowledge that, we don't know who's coming next, what's coming next, what the problems or the joys are going to be. So we have to make room because we are benefiting from our position in this world. And we then must return.
And as I always say, you know, there is enough to go round. There is enough for everybody. There's enough to go round.
Correct. But we are bred since, whenever to believe in the idea of scarcity and lack. But that's a very deliberate thing which pits us all against each other.
Exactly.
Because but I recognize that when I was a young actress, and I would go to these meetings, because back in the 90s, early 2000s, it was not casting. The industry was not operating on the scale that it does now, and so there was like, oh God, she got that part. That's it. That's the one part for the year. Ain't nobody gonna work now because she got that part, So we'd go along to these castings and you'd meet the same people. But what I found started to happen for me was I would meet these wonderful people like Indra Ove, Reiki Ayola, Tanya Moody, etc., Sharon Duncan Brewster. And I go, hey, last time I saw you, such and such was happening in your life. Well, last time I saw you at the last meeting where we were all waiting up, what's happened? And we started this kind of circle of support. And I just went, you know what? We need to be just backing each other. Because there is no other artistic performance art that, sorry, that was a redundant statement, but there's no other performance art where you are pitted against the people with whom you have most in common. If you were a musician and you met people that you have stuff in common, you'd play together. If you were a dancer, you would dance together. And it's only as actors and actresses that we are pitted against each other.
Well, I see the similarities definitely from the modeling days back in the 80s.
Right, because you're a model.
Yeah, and you would go to an agency and they said, well, we've already got a black guy. And I'm thinking, yeah, but you've got 300 white guys. Surely there's room for another one.
Correct.
And I remember it was a big company. We went to an audition and they specified we had to turn up in suit and tie. So the black guys turn up in a suit and tie, and we turn up and there are these white guys there in jeans and a t-shirt and a jacket. And we're thinking, okay. So they've already got the job.
Yeah.
And they've got these 10 black guys walking up and down for this show, doing the choreography, doing it better than the choreographer, but they only want to choose one. Okay. And you're actually thinking, well, you know what, why don't you sack those 6 guys over there that can't count 8 and have all of us?
Can't count 8.
Right? But, no, they just wanted one of you. And we made a stand, and when we realized what they were doing, we all just walked out. Because he thought, no, I'm not going to allow you to pit me against these people. It's just not healthy.
Yeah.
And the mindset is not healthy and what it creates. So, we were just happy to say, well, if all of us can't get it, none of us will get it.
Absolutely.
And that was it.
Absolutely. And in a similar spirit, I came together with a couple of Trinidadian actresses, Renee Castle and Indra Ove, to do Mustafa Matura's Three Sisters, or sometimes called the Trinidad Sisters, which is obviously based on Chekhov's The Three Sisters. And we did like a performed reading of this a couple of times. It was really successful. The audience were so kind of involved in it. We had, I remember, I won't say his name, but there was a beautiful young actor that we had working with us who said, my God, I'm getting to play a classical scale love interest. I didn't know that I was allowed to play anything other than gangster number 3.
That gets killed in the first 10 minutes.
Exactly. And so this was essential. And we tried to get this put forward. But what we were told was that it had been done in the last 8 years, or it had been done in the whatever. And ironically, there were at least 2 productions of Chekhov's Three Sisters on that year in the country, and there were 2 Uncle Vanya's within 100 yards of each other.
Right.
Okay, and the problem here is that we do have wonderful writers. We do have wonderful actors and productions and all of this.
Just as
but
anybody
until
else,
you can build a classical canon, until your young actors have something to refer to go, I can also play these parts, not just the part that the mainstream want to see me as and cast me as and limit
the stereotypical.
Me as. Until we build our own canon, we're not going to have that wealth available, and we're going to always be starting again and again and again. And young people will not know what the generation before did. The generation before will not know who was here before them, and also that I work with young people all the time. I am fascinated and I am liberated every time I work with young people in this industry. They are so much more ahead. They're so much more open, inspired, spunky, enthusiastic. I really am. I learn every time I work.
Yeah, and it's the difference of the mentality of the generations. Whereas the older generations were kind of, well, you don't say that, you don't talk about that, you just keep that quiet. The younger generation, as you say, they're just open. They just say, well, this is what it is. So that's it.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's a debate that's going on at the moment. When I got here, the generations before me are pretty outspoken people.
Oh, yes.
I've got the example of your Albie Jameses, your Alton Kamalos, your Anton Phillips, your
Anton Phillips, wow.
Your Yvonne Brewsters, Mona Hammonds. They were not short of a word or two to say, and they forged a path.
Yeah, but I think in the majority, they were the minority. They weren't the majority. The majority.
I'm going to challenge you, Barrie, because after them came Black Theatre Co-op, came BB Crew.
We're going to be rolling on the floor in a minute.
Came the Posse, came, etc. Okay. I can't even begin to Black Double Edge, it's Black Theatre Mime, etc. I'm sorry I've said that name wrongly, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were out there doing, but it was a different process. It was like everything came through the Arts Council and everything. You had to apply for this and apply for that, but now we're looking at a different dynamic. It's a different
council
market.
was always pulling the strings, and
absolutely. It's a
when
different.
They wanted to pull the
well,
funding.
there's an internet now. Whereas when I came here, the BB Crew or the Posse would be out leafletting, and that's how they would get their audiences in. Now you're going to tweet.
Yeah.
Now you stay home and you tweet.
You can tweet,
exactly. Facebook or whatever.
Instagram.
But people were outspoken and they were strong. But the scale of communication is different.
Yeah.
But what happened was that they kept the door open. And I think, people can now hopefully start to come through the door, but there's going to be another door. And they're going to have to keep that door open for the other people to come through that door. And that's literally what happens. Yeah.
What is your role in Screen Nation?
In Screen Nation, I don't have a role in Screen Nation.
You are Screen Nation.
Ask Charles Thompson. I'm not Screen Nation.
No, he is.
I was honored to have won an award for Screen Nation back in... It might be early 2000s, I can't remember.
Okay.
But then they were called BFM.
Right.
Yeah. And so I remember going to the first one before I was nominated for something. I remember going to one of the first events that they had. And I was doing Casualty at the time. We were based in Bristol, and a whole bunch of us came down.
That's when I fell in love with her.
Comfort Jones.
Comfort. I was like, I would switch on Casualty and just go, right, where's Comfort? I don't care about the rest. Don't care about Charlie. I don't care about any of the other Duffy.
I love them all.
I love them all, but I wanted Comfort.
I was lucky, man. Comfort Jones was like a warrior woman, and she was hanging out the back of ambulances, jumping off tall buildings. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it was great.
It was Comfort.
Yeah, it's Comfort. But so a bunch of us came to town to be there at one of the earliest events that Charles, etc., staged. And I tell you, we went back to Bristol. I don't think I stopped smiling for like 3 days.
Yeah.
just to have been around the people that were of the industry that shared something with me across generations,
the appreciation of them, and
just to be told, we see you, we know that you're going through a certain experience, we know we're in it together, we know what it's like, and we recognize achievement within these conditions. Honestly, I was grinning. I just grinned for days. So that's come on. And then, of course, we met each other recently again at the BAFTA when we did that wonderful presentation of
Ellen Thomas and
Donna Kroll, and Amanda Foster, who also played my.
I was going to say, because when you're hanging out the ambulance, that's Amanda.
The time. They would not me do it, but Amanda's pretty great. So yeah.
I mean, what a character she is. It's like just sitting on the stage, I was scared in the audience. It was like
these are fabulous women, and for some reason we tend to be scared of fabulous women.
No. She's a forceful character.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not scared of Ellen. She's lovely.
You're not scared of Ellen?
No.
You should be.
No, I'm not scared of Ellen or Donna. They're sweeties. They're sweeties.
They are. They're
like
funny.
they're sweeties.
They're hilarious.
But there was a hardness with Amanda, and when she displayed her story, you see why she had to galvanize herself to deal with what was going on.
Amanda was beautifully frank, and is always beautifully
frank.
When I've worked with Amanda, I still remember, and I still have the books in my library that she recommended to me. Amanda is very self-reflective and spiritual and all these things. But I think that being a stunt woman is different to being an actress. And as an actress, you have to be ready to take on and assume
a character,
and understand and penetrate and etc. People who know me know that I could go down that conversation a bit too far. But for Amanda and the stunt people I meet, because they are always so interesting, they are extremely strong. Like we've worked recently, and I work a lot with someone called Kevin McCurdy, and etc. They're amazing because you meet them, and they're so calm when they're in their professional situation. There's this kind of Zen thing.
Right.
It's like Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when they show you what you need to do, it's like you don't want to mess with them. And Amanda's that.
Yeah.
But when we encounter it in a woman, we're just like, I don't understand that. And I just think it's fabulous. It's fabulous. It's alive. It's so definite. It's so solid, and yet so movable. It's wonderful.
I mean, that occasion at the BAFTAs the other day was again beautiful. I was smiling for the rest of the week, and in actual fact, I was supposed to go somewhere after, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to go. That literally, I thought I don't want to go somewhere that's not gonna meet this and bring me down from where I am, because I left there like this, and as you can see, I have a lot of teeth.
I didn't leave there. I just stayed with the ladies. I stayed with Donna and Ellen, and we were just liming. Liming.
Yeah.
It was great.
Now, Shakespeare. Because this is definitely a Shakespearean actress. Your first dalliance with Shakespeare was?
My first dalliance with Shakespeare was at school.
At school.
I'm a Trinidadian. We were brought up on classics. And I remember my teacher, Mrs. Davis, saying to us when she was trying to make us learn entire monologues from the Scottish play and from the rest of it, she said to us, these will be your friends for the rest of your life. Just trust me. And so we were like, okay. And I tell you, to this day, I will quote, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And that I learned under Mrs. Davis at school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, they do remain your friends. They do remain your emotional inspiration. So, and then, of course, I then saw that play performed by Pearl Aintu Springer and Devendra Dookie and sorry, I can't remember right now, in Trinidad, and was so inspired. So yeah, when I came over here and got the chance to do these pieces, we studied under a woman called Judith Jick at my drama school, who was beautiful older woman. And sometimes if you let yourself go, because she talked with such love that you went, did you know him?
You're just thinking, you don't look old enough, but the way you're saying it is like, this is a personal relationship here. That's how much she felt it.
That's how much she felt it. I was like, you went out with him, didn't you? So, yeah, and I love the language. And I think as a West Indian, we love the language.
Yeah.
One of the first Shakespeare's I did, in a way, was a radio production for BBC, which we did with Felix Cross was directing. We did Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh,
but
one of
Felix
my favorites.
set it in a Trinidadian setting because...
So was that in Trinidad?
No, it was over here. It was in the BBC.
Right, okay.
At Bush House. But the thing is, if you watch, for those of you who will get the kind of crossover here, is if you look at it, it happens over the same space of time that Carnival does.
Okay.
Between Dimanche Gras, which is the Sunday celebrations, and Ash Wednesday. Okay, which is the repenting on the Wednesday when everybody comes to their sane mind.
After the Tuesday.
After the Monday, Tuesday, and all that happened in there. It is exactly the time scale. In fact, I'm giving away too much. I shouldn't elaborate on this anymore.
Oh, it's lovely to hear that.
But he did this fantastic Trinidadian version of it, therefore, that he found fitted the time scale. And so he used Calypso and the rest of it. And oh my God, I have never laughed so much. I was working with other Trinidadian actors. My friend Hayden Ford was on it, Jim Finley, etc., etc. Actually, we had Claire Benedict. I don't want to mix up all the different productions. But yes, Claire Benedict, George Harris, etc. And it was fabulous. And we had such a laugh because the language fits completely to the meter.
Yeah.
In the way that the language needs to be played with and felt and be sensual and be another character in the play with Shakespeare. Trinidadians are that.
Right,
they play with language, they mess about with meter, they mess with the interpretation and the emphasis and where all of that goes. And yeah, we had a ball. I'd love to see more of that done.
And that was here on the radio. Radio. Yeah. When did you get to play Shakespeare on stage for the first time?
Well, back in the day, in the 90s, late 90s.
90s is just the
I'm
other
actually
day.
not really coy about any of this. I don't want pretending to be coy. I guess I feel like supposed to, but I'm not. I was at the RSC for the first time, and I was doing Troilus and Cressida. And what was the other Shakespeare play? There was Troilus and Cressida. I was doing something called 3 Hours After Marriage. Oh
Taming of the Shrew?
No, not at the time. I have done that since.
Okay.
But I got the opportunity to go on because Victoria Hamilton had got laryngitis, and I got to bless her. And she's a mate of mine, so I got to go on as Cressida, which was every bit of fear that you can imagine is going to happen.
I'm sure
I was
it's
terrified.
the first time.
And I went on. And that's a really essential and beautiful and dynamic and tragic part. And it was just great. It was just great. So I went on.
And where was that?
That was at the Barbican. Audience of
Wow.
however many, etc. So that was my first real Shakespeare. And then in the last couple of years, I've done
nothing but Shakespeare.
And you know what? You have to be very careful of what you put out there and what you wish for. Because when the string of Shakespeare started that I've done, which I'm so blessed for, I realized it was an answer to a request I put to the universe. Because as the first one happened, Facebook, I am a Facebook person, came up with one of those memories that they do, and they said, it was one where I went, I'm dying to do more Shakespeare.
Bearing your soul to the universe and on Facebook, social media.
And then it went, okay.
You want Shakespeare? Let me give you Shakespeare. You want Shakespeare? Let me give you Shakespeare.
I've been so lucky. And then since then I went, okay, can I do some modern plays?
Okay. Hello. Hello.
It was brilliant. It was great. And then I carry on.
So which Shakespeare have you done?
Oh gosh.
Because you said there's a string.
I've done Troilus and Cressida. I've done Macbeth. I've done Coriolanus. I've done Julius Caesar, Henry IV, Tempest.
Wow, really a string?
Yeah, loads. Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm trying to remember.
There's more.
I'm literally sitting. I feel like there's a story of Orson Welles sitting in a restaurant getting drunk, and someone came up to him and said, "What have you ever done?" And he then started to list all these things that he'd done, but people around him didn't realize it was in response to a question, so he just appeared to be just sitting there, listing his CV. I feel a little bit like that at the moment.
Citizen Kane. 39 steps.
Babe, I only wish.
Now you're a busy girl.
Yeah.
Very busy girl. What do you do to look after yourself and keep your equilibrium and your peace of mind?
You sound like my family.
I am.
You are my family.
I am.
We are family. Not enough at the moment. I'm going to be honest. Not enough at the moment. I've been through phases where I've done like a lot of exercise, a lot of yoga, a lot of meditation and things like that. And I'm only reintroducing myself to that. And I haven't been.
Right.
And that does take its toll.
Is that just because of work commitments and just sometimes you think, you know what, I just want to sit down rather than run up? Yeah.
Family.
Responsibilities, commitments.
And big family events that have happened in the last couple of years. Which means that I need to find a new balance. I need to refine some kind of equilibrium.
Because the taking care of you is quite important as well, to do all of that stuff.
If anybody wants to come and take care of me. I'm doing a pretty good job, but I'm always happy for a helper.
Aren't we all? Yeah, so you don't do yoga or anything like that?
I'm literally, as we're speaking, so I feel a bit of a fraud to say that I do, because I'm literally just getting back into it. Which is... Well, immediately you get back into it, you can feel the benefits, but you just have to do whatever it is that brings back some kind of peace of mind, because it's
heavy out there. It's busy.
Out there.
It's
this world is...
But sometimes looking after yourself might be just switching the phones off.
Correct.
And sitting on your couch with a packet of chocolate biscuits. I didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
And your quilt and the TV, watching Casualty with comfort.
But also, it's like you're not going to help anybody until you look after yourself.
After yourself, absolutely.
And I remember that it's kind of a quote for political struggle, is that you help another struggle by winning your own.
Absolutely. Because exactly as this is about, you're the inspiration. You say, well, listen, she did it.
This is how I can do it. And absolutely.
And it's the fact that it's not always been easy. You don't necessarily come from a silver spoon in your mouth, but you did it.
And who is it that says, for a black woman, to look after myself is actually a political act?
Who said that?
Well, I'm right now, I'm juggling all my influences in my brain. So it might have been Angela Davis, it might be Audre Lorde, it might be one of these. I think it might be Audre Lorde.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, because they're essentially carers and nurturers of others.
It's for every reason, it's a political act. To look after yourself, to be your own inspiration, to be the best you that you want to be.
Yeah.
Is an act of some kind of statement.
Yeah. Well, my darling, it was an absolute honor. I have to grab these hands. I can't believe I'm touching Martina Laird's hands. Love you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. We can tell. Lovely to see you. Lovely to talk with you. And all the best for the future.
And you.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to the rest of your series.
Yes. We're working hard.
Yeah, you
bringing
are.
Greatness like you
baby.
to everyone.
Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us. What a treat that was today. If there's anything that resonates with you during the show, please leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, take care. See you then. Lovely. Thank you so much.